What's up, book babes? Get comfy, get cozy. It's time to chill. I'm Cassie.
And I'm Emily, and this is Book Bits and Chill, the podcast where we break down every chapter, thirst over fictional men, and never take ourselves too seriously.
All right, and today we are back with our mini series that we launched literally last week, called Fiction's Fresh Faces. So this segment is basically geared towards highlighting new authors that you should absolutely know and their books that they're debuting that you absolutely need to put on your TBR. So today we're here with Becky Fox. We're so excited. Welcome, Becky, and
Hello,
we'll
well, thank you.
we'll pass it over to you for a little intro.
Oh, thanks, guys. I'm so excited to be here. This is the first podcast I've jumped on. So I'm like
Wow!
excited but nervous.
Heck yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want.
This is a
Everything's
safe
chaos.
space. Yeah.
I'm a new author. I started writing because I've been going through long COVID, and it's just been like the most cathartic process ever. I started writing last year when I first got it, but it was children's fantasy that I dove into first of all, and I have a whole book that's in the background for that. And then this year, a friend converted me onto Romantasy, and I was just so obsessed. But
Yep.
then I tore through the whole Imperium series, and then I was so sad that it finished. I was like, I don't know what to do, and so I was like, I just have to write my own. That's the only way I can solve this problem. And then
0
that
to 100.
Yeah.
yeah, so that's basically how I kind of entered this but I've always been a creative, and so I think it was always in me anyway.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
Wow.
incredible.
We have to
I
dive into the long COVID later because Cassie
Yeah.
and I are also health nuts.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, no.
And probably sufferers of long COVID and we didn't even know. And also sufferers of the romantasy addiction that
Oh my God.
I did not turn into anything productive. I just like kept going down horrible rabbit holes.
Right.
So I love that you turned it into a career pivot, which we'll definitely get into more of that. But Em, do you want to kind of walk through
Oh,
the
yeah.
segment structure and what we'll
Yeah.
be talking about?
Okay, Becky, we're gonna do a little like vibe check, just like who you
Okay.
are as an author, like what you're into, fun little questions. Then we'll let you do a little like book intro about your book, a little quick summary, whatever you want the readers to know. And then we get into this fun section called Write or Die. It's a play on words ride or die. Don't know if they say that in New Zealand, but they say it here. And it's just gonna be like your ideas that you were like so strong in during the writing process, like things you absolutely needed included in the plot, things that you weren't going to give up on. And then we'll go into some audience questions from our audience. And then we have this really free form section every week called Bits of the Week. This can be about anything, books, not books, writing, yourself, personal. And so we'll have a like fun girl chat during that time, and then we'll wrap things up.
Sounds good.
Amazing. So to get the vibes rolling and get things going, we want to know when you first started reading, can you remember the book, which you kind of just maybe teased this, that made you want to be an author?
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah. Uh, oh, it was funny because I basically last Christmas I was with my friend's kids, and they were talking to me about a fantasy book that that she was reading, and it was a kid's book, and she was telling me the plot, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this makes no sense. And like, but she was loving it. She was so passionate about it. And I suddenly realized I was just like, I could do this. You know, if she's so addicted to
Yeah.
this book,
Yeah.
I was like, I could write her something. So I basically went home after that, and I was thinking about my friend's kid was about 12, and I'd known her, you know, I was like Auntie Becky, and I was just like, I could write
Oh,
her a book. And so that's kind of, it wasn't actually a book that kind of got me into it. It was like listening to my friend's kid describe a book and how
Aw.
passionate about it. And I was like,
wow.
and then I got on the plane after that, and a story just came, and so that's called Millie Sky
Wow.
and the Shapeshifting Chronicles. So that's like a
So
children's book that's in the background.
cute.
Yeah,
Wait,
so that
so
got me going.
is this book published or you still just have it on your desk?
No, so that one's in the background. It was being writing until fantasy romance came in and absolutely just like slammed me off
Fair.
the tracks and like
Demolished
redirected
everything.
me.
We need to get the like tweens back into reading though. Like
Yeah, true.
that was a like thing in my life that really made a big difference, and I feel like they've lost it to social media.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's time for you to release that book and get the kids back.
No pressure.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
pressure. That is so cool. And also, you are Aunt of the Year for turning around and writing her a book
I
immediately
have to
after.
finish it.
That's incredible. Well, the start is what counts. Let me tell you, I am not doing that as an aunt. I'm like, I'll take you to the zoo like once a year and we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would love to know, this can be romantasy or anything outside of the genre, but what's a book that you wish that you could erase from your memory entirely just to experience it for the first time again?
It's got to be like Fourth Wing. I just like
Right?
I went I just like
Fair.
it was my friend sent it to me and this was my introduction into the world and I was just like, what is this book? And I read it quite like at the beginning I was quite not suspicious but just not sure what my friend had sent me because I had never dove into I was into fantasy as a kid, like I'm into Lord of the Rings, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was a
absolutely.
big Terry Pratchett Discworld fan, and like I
Love
love
it.
nerding out on board games, but I kind of lost that over the years. And so I was like, what's this
Yeah.
dragon book? And then halfway through, when you really meet Xaden, like I wish I could just re-meet that all again, but
Oh, yeah.
go in with that different excitement rather than like, what is this?
Yes. Seeing
I
Xaden again for the first time on the parapet is something that I think we all need. We all need that in 2025.
I
That's
Yeah.
am like
incredible.
not I am not a rereader because I think I have this fear that if I go back and reread that scene, like what if I
Yeah.
don't love him as much as I loved him the first time?
Right.
I tried it. I went back through and started like, I like to kind of take things apart and really see like from like a more scientific point of view as I was doing book research and things. It did hit as good the second time, but like the third and fourth
Uh,
time it starts to like,
the third and
Yeah.
fourth time.
There's diminishing returns there.
That's
That is
hilarious.
That's such a good point too. And I feel like that's something that is so universally felt, or at least I've seen online, of like we were all these huge readers because we had these like epic series and epic stories that we all grew up with as children and as teenagers. And then for whatever reason, I feel like we all just had this collective pause for however
mm,
long that
Hmm.
like either the dragon book or the fairy book or the whatever like got us back into reading, and it's so cool how consistent of a thread that is, I feel like, with whoever we talk to.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's always so nice. My friend who sent it to me, my best mate, I'm like indebted to her because like it's this stage of my life, there was so much crap going on. And I was just like, if you hadn't sent me this book, honestly, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. Like I just message her every day and I'm like, thank you, thank you.
Is she gonna get an acknowledgement in your novel?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh.
yeah. She's like, you have, she's like, you have to just say thank you to I call her Bez, but she's called Lucy. And it's just like, has to be like dedicated to her.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so speaking of fairy books, dragon books, are you familiar with this whole thing out in the world right now? It's like tropes. Like everybody
Mm,
has the like only one bed at the inn trope.
Yeah, yeah, or your enemies. Well,
Yeah.
I guess enemies to lovers is a trope, but it
yeah.
was more
Yes,
specific. It's
yeah.
more niche ones. Yeah, yeah.
So, do you know what trope your book falls under?
Yeah, definitely your enemy to lovers for sure. That's the
Okay.
big. So my book was initially, it was the romance theme that came first, and then everything
Oh,
built around that because I was just like, I was obsessed with how Fourth Wing had managed to just like make me disappear, and
yeah,
that's why I
Yeah.
was like, I need this. I need to keep disappearing because there was stuff going on outside, and so
right.
Yeah.
I was like, it was that. So that's the trope that really like that enemies to lovers, like that tension and then all the
Yeah.
world
Ooh.
and everything just built around it. Yeah.
I love that.
Ooh.
Were there anything when you were writing where you were like, I absolutely will not fall into that trap? Like that gives me such an ick.
Oh, oh yeah, definitely. I think the initial bit, like for me, I'm also writing for somebody like me where like I can easily put
Yeah.
books down, and so I
Okay.
had to make sure that the first opening was a promise to what you can expect. Because I was like, I need
Mm,
to be like, even though it's going to go off for a bit and we're going to do some world building and we're going to go and have some exploratory stuff, I want to make a little promise of like the
yeah.
style and things. So sometimes like a slow book for me is an ick because like I'm not a liter you know I don't come from a really sort of deep reading background in like
Mm-hmm.
literature. So for,
Sure.
you know, enjoying the words for words sake. My husband's
Yeah.
like that. Whereas for me, it's the story.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
really
don't know.
do
I
give
really
a
liked it.
lot away in the first like 5 chapters.
I was gonna say, like, you really get into the action. Like, we meet the potential enemy to
Yep.
lover. Like, we
Yep.
meet her like kind of side lover. Like, we get like introduced to the entire kind of like political
Yep.
challenge at hand.
Her
Like, it's
magic
just
source.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. But to your point, like it is something that really grips you
I
immediately.
hope
And like
so.
for
Yeah.
me, I feel like Em and I are very similar as readers, where we kind of need that hook pretty quickly
Mm.
to make sure that we're gonna stick through the whole book. So I
Because
loved that.
I almost put Fourth Wing down, and I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, what if I had? I'm like, you know, so I'm like, I don't want that. I want someone to be like someone like me who picks up the book, who's a little bit always suspicious and like turns the first couple of pages, and then like I was like, no, I need to like make them a promise, you know.
Yeah.
That's
I
so
will.
true. I recently made my mom read Fourth Wing, and she was like, "When are they getting on these dragons?" And I'm like, "What chapter are you on?" And she was like, "I'm like halfway through the book." And I'm like, "They're
Yeah.
not on a dragon halfway through the
Yeah.
book? I don't remember
Yes.
this."
No, you
Yeah.
don't. I went
Yeah.
back to try and find like, okay, when's this first kiss scene when they're outside in the snow? Because I wanted to like revisit it, and it's literally like more than halfway through the book or
It's
something. And I was
deep.
just
That's
like, what? How did I?
crazy.
Yeah.
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 It is, it's deep. We read Fourth Wing for my book club actually, like a few months after it came out. And I remember coming there, texting my book club and being like, I cannot get through this book. I do not like this book. I don't understand. And then I think it was like three-quarters of the way through, I was flying through it.
Yeah, you're
And
like,
I was like,
oh,
oh, and I think it was that moment when like they
yeah,
get on the dragons and you're like,
yeah,
oh, okay,
yeah,
now I understand what's going on here. Now it's
yeah,
all
yeah,
clicking in my head. So yeah, I appreciate the first five
But we all
chapters.
forgot the first, yeah, we all forgot the first 50%. So, Becky,
Yeah.
we like the immediate hook.
Yep. Yep, correct. Okay, so Becky, we would love to get into a little bit more about your writing style, your writing
mhm.
process, all of that good stuff. But if you wouldn't mind finishing the sentence, if you loved insert popular romantasy book here, you will love Veins of Power because
Oh, I feel like we're just going on like a total Fourth Wing.
It's okay. You're in a
right?
hole.
Yeah, we'll stay there.
I think, yeah, honestly, I think that's it. That's my thing. I was like, I needed to rebuild something after I finished that book. So for me, it's really like a filling a void of wanting to recreate that feeling, but without having to like reread that book and having a completely different story, but just that sense of feeling you got. So I think, yeah, if you loved Fourth Wing, you're gonna love this because of that like that slow burn. Like that's the way she
Yes.
psychologically
Ooh, yes.
manipulated you. Whatever she did, it was pure magic, and that's what I want to recreate. It's horrible because it's so torturous, but
It's
it just
true.
Yeah,
keeps you turning.
Yeah, it's true.
I
I'm
love
like, I don't
that.
know what drug she put in that book,
Yeah.
like in the middle of the pages, but it's strong, let me tell you.
Yep.
Well, I think in terms of the next section, we're getting into a bit about the book, right?
Yeah, let us know what you want to share with the audience. You can do the like quick summary of the full book. You can just tease the 5 chapters that should be out soon to the world. Go ahead, whatever you want to do.
Let's do, well, the first 2 chapters are out for anybody, so they can do that.
Okay.
So the story starts with Lyra. She's grown up in the Outer Lands where magic is outlawed and dragons have been exiled, but there's like breaches and they're starting to push and come back in. And she's basically had to fend for herself. You know, she's lost her parents. It's a very tough world, and she's become a very kind of tough cookie. And so she keeps people at bay. And that's going to be something she's going to have to work on. But she's basically, you'll read through the book, but she's learned how to read her own magic. We call the magic system threads in this story. So
Mm.
everybody has these threads that can manipulate the physical world around them, and she's managed to basically be able to figure that out. So most people in the Outer Lands can't do anything, but she can. But it's very chaotic and it's very uncontrolled. She likes to sneak into the Inner Lands. And on one of these excursions where she sneaks in, something goes wrong, and she ends up having to be captured and go and serve for the oppressive system that's kept her
Oh,
outside her whole life. And
Tough.
so there's a lot of like decision making for her of like whether she sort of leans into this, does she try and get out? And then obviously when she's in that environment, we suddenly meet the antagonist, the enemy, who also starts adding a lot of extra problems to her
Mm.
life, because he's obviously very sexy, so that's a problem, but he's also very
Obviously.
dangerous. And then
Yeah.
there's the allies, that she's going to meet that hopefully will become friends, but they're also going to make life a bit more difficult for her, but
Yeah.
not meaning to. Um, yeah, and we've got a little bit of a love triangle kind of that will slowly form throughout the
Ooh.
book as well, and where Lyra's sort of like heart should lie. I really want to sort of like that Team Jacob team, um
No.
that kind of vibe, going
No,
on, because
I can't
with
take
Yes.
it.
No, the
we've
world
got
needs that. The world needs
yeah,
that
because
in
I feel like
2025.
that was my ick a little bit with Fourth Wing, is that like we were kind of pitted against Dane, and
Yeah.
I want the love triangle. Like I want everyone to be rooting almost for like both. We've got like this character in the opening chapter that people will like, we're gonna fall in love with him, whether
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lyra does, and then there's the evil guy that we just want her to like, we want some good scenes and
Oh yeah.
whatever's gonna happen with that.
I
Oh.
love that. Okay, so there's dragons in this book, right?
Yes. Yeah, and
And
it's
but
funny because
it's go ahead.
yeah, because I was thinking, okay, I the dragon trope, how to bring that in a more creative way, and I was thinking, okay, we've got this really oppressive system that really wants
Yeah.
to control things, and dragons are powerful, and bonding with dragons is really powerful. So of course, after this, there was a war, and there was a treaty that kind of starts this whole new era of this land, and that's where we kick off.
Yeah.
And this oppressive system has exiled dragons, and you're forbidden to go bond with them. And so we're going to
Ooh.
start in the first book, we're going to start to see them creep in, and we're going to start to see a little bit more issues with these dragons and some
Mm.
creepy stuff going on. And at
Ooh.
the end of book one, there's going to be a massive promise that I've just rewritten and I'm so excited about. And the start of book two, you're really going to be like, it's going to be super dragon promise heavy, so that will be
Oh.
Wow.
really fun, because it'll be really fun
So
because you've got like then two different themes to be looking forward to.
Yeah.
are the dragons like, so you mentioned dragon bonds, but you also mentioned dragon secrets. So are we gonna get in the first book more like fourth wing dragon bonds, or are we gonna get like Game of Thrones, nobody knows what these dragons have been doing for a while,
Probably.
and we have to build the relationship back up?
I think more on the Game of Thrones style thing.
Mm.
And it's more like there's going to be breaches. So the dragons have been exiled, so there's not been much interaction, and there's been no bonding that we know of for centuries. And so we're going to have these breaches, and these in the very first chapter we get like a bit of an insight into that. There's been a dragon attack, and
Oh.
people kind of get there's something called reassignment, which is if you break any laws in this land, you get reassigned, which means you get sent out to go and keep these dragons at bay because they keep trying to push back in. They're attracted to the humans, whether it's good or bad.
Mm.
Yeah, we have people that go out and keep them at bay, and you inevitably die if you get reassigned. It doesn't take long for the dragons, but it kind of just keeps them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're just gonna have these breaches, and there's gonna be some kind of strange dreams also happening, and it's
Ooh.
really gonna be at the beginning of book two that all of that suddenly makes sense.
I
Wow.
cannot believe you already have book two coming our way.
It's amazing. I love this. Also, I love kind of highlighting and writing about that like power dynamic between the dragons and the humans because
Mm,
I feel like that's something that in Fourth Wing we started to get in Onyx Storm, where
yes.
we met the Irids and they kind of were like, "You guys are insane over there with what you do," and of course I went down like massive Reddit holes after I finished Onyx Storm. And there's a ton of theories out there that people are saying that basically the whole series is going to end with the dragons separating their bonds from the humans and taking magic away from them and basically just like going and living their lives kind of similar to the Irids
Oh.
because the kind of power balance has just been so off for so long. And so when it's like you get rid of this, like whatever the evil is within the world, like, do you really need that connection between the two?
Yeah.
Or is it too much for
Oh,
the humans? So I love that you
that's
tap
so
into
interesting.
that.
I was gonna say, because
Yeah,
mine, like, it almost starts like that. It almost starts
right.
that there's been this separation because it's like it
Yeah,
is too powerful. You're not allowed it, and we're gonna
right.
Yeah.
start to see whether it comes back again. And then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe it'll in Onyx Storm, it'll rip it apart, and then
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
oh,
I love that you tapped into that. And I feel like it makes it super unique. Like you
mm,
mentioned a little bit ago that the dragon trope is very common or popular, but I feel like that play on it is not. So I'm really excited to hear more.
Yeah,
yeah,
I can
yeah.
definitely tell you were a Lord of the Rings fan and you're pulling some of like the high
Yeah.
fantasy things in.
There is a
Hmm.
lot like
We
so
love that.
because my background initially like I've only just entered this like real deep world of like the romantasy books. When I initially was plotting everything out, it was coming from those big stories that have stood the test of time, which obviously these romantasy
Yeah.
books also draw from. But yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
of, especially in book two, there's some real Lord of the Rings stuff. There's a lot of book two also I drew from like the Greeks and the Romans and stuff like that
Oh,
to try and bring
nice.
things in. Yeah.
I
Wow.
love that.
Well, along those lines, we'd love to know a little bit more about your writing process because there's
Yeah.
so much that you introduce in these first five chapters. Did you lead with the character, with Lyra, with the world, with any of the plot twists, or did you just like know the end and then you kind of wrote backwards from there?
Yeah. So I knew, so it was the romantasy arc, the romance arc that I knew because I was like going through long COVID and there was this really interesting position where I was like, oh, wait, like, because I was like, when you have a really good romantasy, right, you have to have a reason to bring them together when they don't like each other, and then you have to have a reason to pull them apart. And sometimes
Mm,
that's an ick because sometimes the reasons they're pulled apart, you're just like, just get over it. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
this isn't a
The
reason. Like
miscommunication trope.
you're just having an argument, and I didn't want
Yeah.
that. And so it's like it has to be super consequential. And so I was just like, oh, this is really interesting. Going through long COVID, being intimate with my partner like actually comes at a bit of a physical cost. And I was like,
Mm.
Yeah.
that's a really interesting thing to play on. And I don't know, did you ever watch like Buffy the Vampire Slayer when you were younger?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's, when Angel, when they finally get together and then he turns evil because like they were finally, and I was like, what a great consequence to happen. And
Yeah.
not that that's what will happen in the book or anything. But I was just like that consequence of like being together and having like physical or magical consequences. So
Yeah.
that built out, so I built out this romance. So I knew what needed to happen to them. So I almost like kind of built the chapters of like them meet, and then I had to like build the world around that. So my background's in like system development for businesses. So it's like bringing in complex bits of information and relating them in ways that like then they work and everything
Yeah.
connects together. And so I built out all these relational databases to be able to like store all the ideas that were just streaming out of me. So
Wow.
the three books were all mapped out, and then I can just plug in all the different things that I want to happen, but also in books you have to have things that need to happen. And so I
Sure.
can just slot those in around it, and then I take from those databases, and then once I've got them all set, like I was like, right, now I can really start pushing through book one. So and then the chapters for book two they're not as detailed or not as many, and the same for book three, but it's like as the book
Sure.
pushes through it sort of seeps into the into the databases, and they get bigger and more detailed. um yeah,
My
because in
jaw
book
is on the floor
Wow.
during this because I am so scared about what's going to happen to our love interest in this book just based off of the comparisons you were just giving.
it's a good reason they need to stay apart, and also because it's like then you need to go into book two and you can't just kind of like sort of continue the same thing. It's got to flip. So
Right.
in book one we're going to have sort of one reason, and it's going to be like pushing on it and pushing it to try and get them to actually figure it out. And then when we enter book two, we're like, okay, we can't just have it's. I've got it, and it completely flips. And so
Yeah.
suddenly, like, it's yeah, just to keep
This
that.
is amazing
Ooh,
organization.
my heart
Like I
is
feel,
already pounding.
yeah, this is amazing organization. Also with these little databases, I feel like any author that doesn't know where to start and how to get organized needs to listen to this episode because Becky just gave us how to write a book 101.
Truly.
Honestly, I don't know how people do it without, because it's just like one of the key, I've been Brandon Saunderson, who's like, Mistborn
Yeah.
and all those trilogies. He
Yeah.
has all of his lectures on how to write are online. And when I was
Oh,
when I was
wow.
writing my kids' fantasy romance last year, I just devoured them all. And so that
Wow.
really laid the foundation for being able to like go into this book a lot more structured.
Sure.
Um, and so
That's
one of the big
amazing.
things, yeah, so one of the big things he hammers home, and for any book, is promise, progress, and payoff, where you make a promise to the reader that something may happen, So,
Yeah.
um, just trying to think in Fourth Wing, the promise that she will bond with a dragon. And it's not whether it will happen, it's a question. Will she bond
Right.
with a dragon? And then you need to
Right.
show progress. Throughout the story, you need to continuously show that she's getting closer and closer or
Mhm.
further and further, but at least there's some kind of progress. It's not just
Sure.
the same. And then you need the payoff. You need the scene where she gets chosen and it's ticked off. And
Yeah.
so that's when you have so many different plot arcs going through. You need the romance arc, you've got the character development arc, you've got like the
Right.
plot, and then you've got all these little secrets and things to track all of them and make sure that you've opened a loop, but you've also closed it and you're also
Yeah.
showing
Yeah.
progress. It's like overwhelming, and I think that's where some books can easily like tease you something and then you're like, wait,
Right.
you never
Yeah.
closed that, or what's
Plot
happening with
holes.
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plot
So
holes.
that's a big ick for me. So the
Yeah.
databases have been invaluable to make sure that I'm tracking, and I'm like, if I open this, it's closed here. So even in those first 5 chapters, in the first 2 chapters, there are subtle little things that are open, and some of them won't
Right.
be closed till the very end of the book, but at least I know and I can track and make sure, so the reader, I want it to be really satisfying. That's my big
I
thing.
love
So I
that.
want
Yeah.
the reader to go, those questions were either answered, or they are that she's promising me that she's going to answer them in the next book.
Wow.
So
Thank you.
Cassie
Yeah.
and I were just talking about this because we both just read the same book together, and it didn't really end on a cliffhanger. It kind of
Oh,
and it kind of wrapped itself up, but there's a book two. And so
interesting.
I was a little disappointed because I wanted a huge cliffhanger, like a surprise, and then like we don't know what's going to happen next. And Cassie felt a little more okay with it because she
Yeah.
said she looked into the author before, and this author was like, I don't want my audience to feel like unsettled. So she wants to give them that payoff
Mm,
you're talking about.
Yes.
So
yeah,
do
yeah.
Yeah.
you feel like you're more of give the audience a payoff or big cliffhanger?
Ooh, it's like it's hard, isn't it? Because sometimes people say, if you're getting out there also as a first time author, sometimes it's like write the trilogy or write the series because that's really good. You can bring people in. But,
Sure.
J.K. Rowling and people like try and make the first book as a standalone. So if they wanted to read it, they just
Right.
could.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So there is like a balance between it. Mine is going to be like the way I've just changed it. The cliffhanger is going to be like insane. So I'm really sorry. It's going to be like it's
Oh,
it's,
my
it's
heart's
going to be
pounding again.
painful.
You gave me some hope that I would
It
feel
was it
settled.
was I had it where like there was going to be in the second to last chapter there was like a cliffhanger, but then you got the next chapter, and it wrapped up some kind of answers, and then you got a mini cliffhanger, but it wasn't like a painful one. It was like an exciting cliffhanger. So that's how it was
Ooh.
initially meant to end. And then what
Ooh.
happens to me is like in the middle of the night or in the middle of the morning, somehow my brain just starts working. And I was just like, oh, wait, what if if I change this and then I cut that last chapter out and I end on that? I was just
Right.
like, that's gonna like that. It was stressing me out, and I was like, that's a good thing. I think I just need to. That's gonna be people are gonna. So
Lean into the stress. It's good stress.
I'm so excited about the last scene or the last chapter. What I really want to do is actually like, I'm gonna ask people. Oh, this is the plan. If they will record or have someone record them reading that last chapter to get like
Wow.
reaction.
Live
And
reaction.
if they then tag and send the reaction to me, I'll send them the first chapter of the next book, so instantly they can get it closed.
Oh.
That is brilliant. Okay,
Yeah.
put me on that
Becky,
list, by
you
the way.
are a very smart woman. I like already am blown away.
Yes, yeah, and that is something that we can talk about in a little bit, just in terms of like the marketing and the publishing journey and all of that stuff. But I've just been so impressed by how
Thank
you've been
you.
able to put yourself out there, put this book out there, but then also bring your audience along, like including them in that journey in that way is just
Oh,
so
it's
unique. And I think that's what creates a fandom. You know, it's like you don't just have readers that are passive readers, like you have people
mhm.
that are genuinely so involved in the stories and so attached to the characters based off of how you've been kind of soft launching the book that it's, yeah, I'm very, very excited to see what comes
Oh,
out of
that
it.
makes
And
me so
again, add
happy.
me to that list of live reactions because I'm sure I will be jumping on my bed.
You'll be like
Um,
so annoyed. You like throw the book across the room.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. You mentioned earlier something that I wanted to go back to. Where you were talking about like being intimate with your husband, like during this writing process. And I know that writing spicy scenes, like I've heard other author interviews where they're like, oh my God, like I can't have my family read this, I can't have my grandma read this. Like, or there's some folks who are like, yeah, it's just out there and I don't talk to people about it and that's it. So how was that process of writing those scenes if
Yeah.
they're incorporated in the book?
So,
And how did you feel about it as you were doing it? And did you have
yeah,
to put yourself in a certain like mode, scene,
yeah.
or whatever to be able to do it? How did that go?
So initially, like, because a lot of those romance scenes, it's fun because they've been mapped out, because it really,
Yeah.
that's what dictated everything else around it. I haven't gone into like the uber details. Some of them when you're reading a book and you're so excited, it's like I'm writing it and I'm like, oh my God, I need to get to that chat. I'm like writing as fast as I can so that I can get to that scene. Um, yeah, so when I'm in that scene, it's just like I'm in that scene and I'm not
Yeah.
thinking about anything. I'm not thinking about who's going to read this. It's like pure, just, unfiltered stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Love that.
but obviously, like, bless my dad the other day was like, just send me everything. I want to be so
Oh, the
supportive.
dad.
And I'm just like, oh, dad, like, yeah, but I mean, so I was just like, and I was just like, okay. And I was like, well, look, I don't want you reading the book later, but I was like, I feel like you could read chapter 2. It's like a soft launch, right? There's no graphic
Yeah.
detail.
Yeah.
And my brother as well. I did warn them all. I just said, look, this is just giving you a vibe because I want them to take it seriously because they're like, what are you up to? Like, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
my husband just introduces it that I'm writing dragon porn. And so he's like, so all my family people are thinking that I'm writing about dragons and I'm like, no, it's not really like that. Um, and so I want them to get a teaser so they understand that it's actually a story.
It actually
Um,
has plot to it.
yeah, there's actual substance. So I won't give them any more than that. They've had the kind of like they can have those first 5 chapters,
There you
and
go.
it's gonna, yeah, things by the
That's
end of
so fair.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then but what's actually really interesting is when I'm going down the sort of the process of all the way you actually get your books developed with developmental editors, line editors, copy editors, all that kind of stuff. And
Mm.
I'm going to self-publish, and so it starts to really add up. And
Right.
so it's just like, okay,
Mm.
I need to figure out um how to do this. And so in terms of copy editing, which is, the person who goes in and who's going to like make the sentences like grammatically correct, make sure that
Right.
like the indentations happen on the right line and that the paragraphs are formatted in the correct speech and that
Sure.
all the really because I'm dyslexic, so that stuff can really easily slip over
Oh
me. my
wow.
husband my husband's reading along, so before I launch a chapter, so basically his whole family are linguists, so he comes from like a family of
Mm.
linguistic professors. It's
Wow.
trickled down to him. His background's in law, and so reading things very detailed is what he does.
Right.
So that's really great. And then I was just thinking, damn it, if I want to make this cheaper, the one person I know who edits books and publications on math is my father-in-law. Like that's what he does. Like
Oh.
honestly,
You know
so
what? This is gonna be a new level of a relationship that you're about to unlock with your father-in-law.
I messaged him the other day and I was like, would you be my because he's just prolific. He's like a chair professor at a big university. He
Wow.
teaches language, and so he publishes in like all the big journals. Like that's what he does, and he's just so quick. And so
Right.
I was just like, and I always send him all my work before, like when I was at business school, when I was before, I'd send him all my like thesis, and he's always edited all my stuff for me, but this is different. And so I was just like, but at the same time, it's so funny because he's almost a little bit on the spectrum and he's so
Mm.
into the intricate detail. He
Right.
would basically message me back and he would probably be like, Becky, it is not clitoris, it is clitor. He would like just he would ignore the context, and he would probably just
because
like
he just
hone
wants it to
in.
be correct.
Yeah, he'd be like,
Right.
it's past present tense here. It's not future perfect. Like you gotta,
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Incredible.
Wait, this brings up like kind of a great segue into our audience questions. A lot of audiences are like, did you self-publish? Are you going to go with one of the big five editors? Like, how do you choose? But you brought up something that a lot of people don't talk about. So if you're open to talking about it comfortably, we'd love to hear like the cost behind self-publishing and having to take that cost on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. So initially I just thought you had to get published. So that was my kind of plan, was to like write the book, finish the book, and somehow get it into people's hands. So I was kind of like going down that thing, and I just thought that was the only way you could do it. And then I was really lucky that I had some connections in like kind of the book world, and I jumped on tons of calls with people to understand, and they really gave me the confidence that actually like indie publishing is not only like possible, that it actually could be really beneficial, because you can move fast, you can break things, you can, even when you publish traditionally, you still have to be responsible for your own marketing. So then you're like, well, really the only thing they're really helping with is access to all the editors and stuff.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, well, if I can kind of get that cost down by like with my husband and my father-in-law, and I'm just maybe getting a developmental editor, maybe I can do that. Because yeah, it really does add up, and I had no idea that was going to happen. So
Yeah.
I think more and more, I think if you're in fiction, self-publishing, it seems to be totally fine. Non-fiction, it seems to be you need a bit of a name behind you to give you the credibility to the words that you're saying. So I think it's just lucky that I've gone into the fiction. People, if you connect with your audience and people love the book for what it is, they don't need to see, Penguin Random House at the bottom of the book.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't even know who the publisher is until I like make a point to look it up.
Yeah. Like
Totally.
I think Fourth Wing was quite a small publishing house. I think now they're probably killing it, but it was like Enchanted or something like that. Yeah, I don't even know.
I couldn't even tell you. Yeah, I don't even know.
Yeah, I think it was like Red Tower.
Yeah,
Maybe
Red Tower.
That's what it is now. But yeah, I hadn't heard of it before. So that's a good kind of segue as well in terms of cost. So you've been releasing kind of these batches of chapters or chapter kind of teasers for free to your audience.
Yeah.
What's your strategy behind that? Are there like cost implications to that? Obviously, it seems like a great marketing lever to be able to build up your audience, but would love to understand just kind of the thinking behind that.
So initially, when I was thinking about whether it was going to be like the traditional route of publishing, because my background's in business, one of the first things that you do if you ever have any type of business idea is to get market validation. So you go out there, test it, see what people like, and then you know whether you should double down on it or not. So, and I also like bringing things to life. And so I was like, right, I'll make a little Instagram account because I can create these characters, like I can, bring them out into the world, and then I can see if there's any interest there.
Right.
And I did it, and the data, because that's, my background, the actual conversion rates and the stats that I was seeing, not just like the engagement, but the actual kind of like, if I tested something and then someone went here and they clicked here, there's set conversion rates that you usually see across industries.
Right.
And every number was just blowing it out of the water. And I was just like, oh, wow, okay, there's something here. There is like really hungry market demand, which I was like really fascinated about, but also just for the story itself. So I lent into that and like continued to obviously build up the Instagram account. And then I like built out all the back end business stuff to support that, because I knew, you needed a mailing list so you can reach your audience and you can give them value and build a relationship. But then I just had a really difficult problem of like, I'm building demand, but I have nothing. I'm just telling people you're going to need to wait until 2026. And like people wait for books, but people only wait for you'll only wait for a book in the next, you won't wait for the first book, you'll wait for the second book.
Right.
So, we're all waiting for book 4 in, the Empyrean series, but like, and everybody's waiting for the next, a Court of Thorn, we're all waiting for that book, but it's because, and we're happy to wait, but I was like, I haven't released a book yet. And so I was sitting there and I was just like, like I could start creating content. And I spoke to a consultant. He was like, you could do your own podcast. And I was like, I just want to write the book. Like this book was to help me with long COVID. I don't want to make anything more complex. I've actually quit all of my clients and all of my business to focus on my health.
Sure.
And so I was like, I don't want to create a beast that suddenly takes away from the book.
Right.
And so I was like,
Yeah.
I'll just start giving the chapters as they come out, because then basically every week there's going to be content, because that's what people need
Right.
if you're on a met list, and the content will be the book, and the book will do its own process of marketing. And I'll also get I'll get one instant validation. You know, if you have a YouTube video or podcast, you can put it out and you can see where people trail off. But if you
Right.
give somebody a book, you've no idea where they trail off.
Right.
And so by releasing it, I can see, are people continuing to open? Are they continuing to engage? If so, why
Mm,
not? So that was also interesting. Um,
This
yeah.
and
is
then
blowing
also
my
for me,
mind.
yeah. And then for me personally, because I'm not doing anything at the moment because it's all about health and long COVID, and I'm
Right.
just resting a lot. Um, that sense of progress of like giving people something and having somebody write to me and say, that instant feedback. I
Yeah.
was like, actually, if I just wrote a book in silence for a year, it would actually be quite an isolating process. But
Yeah.
now it's like every week I'm giving people chapters, and every week people are writing back like, I can't
Right.
believe you just did that, or this happened, or something. And
Right.
that I didn't, that's like a benefit I didn't even like plan for. And I'm like, oh, actually, I'm so glad I'm doing this.
That's beautiful. One of the questions that the audience had is kind of relates to something you just said is they want to know how many like words you would write at a time, or if you gave yourself a certain number you had to reach every day, or if you just kind of let it flow
Yeah.
out of you.
So I spoke to a developmental editor, and she kind of did that. And initially when when I wasn't releasing the book as I wrote it, I needed that, because it was like, right, I need the alpha draft done by September, because then we need to do developmental edits, because I want this thing out early 2026. And so there was
Sure.
that pressure, which also was like, oh, I don't want that pressure, because that's not great for the long COVID. So now it's not word count. What it kind of is, because it's chapters. I want to release, I've kind of written that it will be fortnightly just to give myself a bit of space, but I
Sure.
really want to drop 2 chapters a week, or at least 1 chapter a week. Um, and so a chapter within these books is anywhere from like 2 to 4,000 words, depending
Okay.
on like the scenes that are in it. So
Right.
I'm going for, yeah, quite a, but you have to bear in mind right now, like I'm doing nothing else. Like I'm
Sure.
not, you know, for a lot of writers, it's a side thing where they're working, they've got kids, there's a lot of other responsibilities. For me, I'm at home with long COVID. I don't have kids. I'm not working. I am only writing.
Yeah.
And it slowed down a little bit while I kind of just built out the book vault and the back end systems, but that's all done. And so now it's just back on to just writing every day, all day. And I'm so obsessed.
Yeah.
I'm
Ugh.
like, I'm hanging out with friends, and I'm like, oh, this is so nice, but like, can you go?
I gotta
I need
get
to write.
out of here.
I need to go and visit Talon.
But you're also, you keep saying you're not really doing anything, but you're doing so much, by the way. Like
You're
the
doing a
amount of
lot.
work you've
You are
just
doing a lot.
described to us. Yeah. You're doing all
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
marketing, the data, and like, yeah, you're
yeah.
doing a lot. So don't put
My
yourself down
husband's
on
like,
that.
you're.
Seriously.
My husband's like, you're not meant to be working. You're meant to be resting. But I'm like, it's not work. It's so much
Right. It
fun. Like,
doesn't feel like
yeah,
work.
there's certain things for me that are just really naturally, they just come naturally, which I'm really lucky about. And so
Yeah.
like if it's really heavy lift, I won't do it. And that's why I was like, oh, like starting, like kudos to you guys, because when this guy was recommending maybe I start a podcast or something, I was like, that's gonna be work. Like the networking, the setting up, the editing, like it's not,
Yep.
you make it look easy, but I know that there's a lot that goes on behind the
It's so
scenes.
much harder than you would ever expect.
You know,
Yeah.
it is, but similarly, we have fun with it, and so
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
2 of us, which is nice. I think,
Yeah, nice.
that again, the fact that you are just kind of a one-woman shop doing all of this on your own is just incredible.
You and your father-in-law.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not involved yet. He'll
Crack
get when the
team.
alpha draft is done, he'll get the book.
You mentioned needing to go home to Talon, and I feel that way about so many characters that I read about. One of the questions that the audience has is if there is a particular character or specific theme that you feel a strong personal connection to.
Oh my God, that's so like yeah, it's funny because I remember when I was deep diving last year into like book research, I watched a lot of interviews by J.K. Rowling, and she talks about how like when one of the twins died or something in the final book, or no, when it was like no, somebody else dies. The werewolf, is it the werewolf guy or like
Oh,
I don't
they
know.
all die, Becky. They are all
they
dead
all
at the
died.
end.
Yeah, I know they're all dead. She just says like how like she just cried so much during that when she was writing it, and I remember just thinking because I was writing this kid's book at the time, and I was just like, oh, that's weird. Like she's crying over her characters. Okay. And then now it's like so intense. Like it's like there's not just one, but it's just like all of these characters. And maybe because I'm like bringing them to life also on like social media, and I'm really like wanting to see who they are as people.
Right.
For me, but also for the audience. Now I'm suddenly just like, oh, there's so many connections with each one, and I also know what their future holds. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
They're almost like family members to you by the end, I
Totally.
feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do have an audience question that was also a question I had that leads us into our bits of the week open-ended discussion. And if you look at your personal Instagram at Becky Jane Fox, you have a lot of travel and like not even travel, but like just also where you live pictures,
Yes.
and they're very beautiful. So one of the
Yes.
questions was,
Oh,
Yes.
they're gorgeous.
like if you are in a writing rut or you need inspiration, is there a certain place you go in around you that's like beautiful that brings you inspiration?
Mm.
It's such a good question, but I feel bad because the honest answer is like right now I have the opposite problem where there is just for some reason so much stuff coming out, and I'm so glad I got these databases to organize it because it's like it's overwhelming. Like I can't turn this tap off. It's just
Flowing
like
out of
something
you.
opened, and it's just like, and yeah, I was actually getting anxiety because I was like, oh my God, like how do I keep on top of this? And so yeah, so very
No
very lucky in that
inspiration
respect.
needed.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
but I think it's just like I am naturally around that. Like I live on the South Island of New Zealand. We've come up to the
Mm.
mountains this weekend. I was sitting looking, there was yesterday the mist was like rising above the lake, and there was like these beautiful
Ooh.
frost growing everywhere. And in book two, we're going to kind of move setting. And I was like, I really want this in book two. I want this kind of like, because the outer lands is very arid and kind of desolate. The inner lands where she's going to go is very oppressive and controlled and organized. And I want, as we go into book two, we're going to be in a different setting. And I was like, actually, these like misty, beautiful mountains. So it kind of like I
Yeah.
wasn't looking for so I think a lot of times I'm not looking for the inspiration necessarily, but I'm
Mm,
like picking it up.
Yeah.
Or if I'm reading, I'm just like engaging in like creative process, and like stuff's just coming.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Oh,
sounds way more beautiful than the tornado that's happening
Oh
outside
my
my
God.
house right.
Scary.
But
yeah,
so I'm
seriously.
looking at your so this is Bits of the
Uh,
Week. Welcome to Bits of the Week. I was looking at your Instagram and I saw that you're a White Lotus fan, and I am a big White Lotus fan.
Oh, I love
And
it.
so
yeah.
I'm dying to know who your favorite White Lotus character is, and if any of the personality traits like snuck into your book characters.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, I think so. My whole thing with this book is like, I realized when I was like, am I a writer? Am I not a writer? I realized like when I started writing, I was like, oh, I'm not writing a novel. I'm writing like it's like an escape room or a murder mystery, but you basically solve it by reading the book, right? There's just so many clues and puzzles. And I think White Lotus is so good at that of like, you're going through this whole journey to try and like figure out like
Yeah.
what's happened because you start with this promise that kind of someone's died and then you're going through the whole thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love, yeah, okay, I think Theo, right? Theo James. What characters does he
Oh
play
yeah,
in the
season
second?
2.
Yeah,
What's
Yep.
his name?
yeah. I don't
I
We
can't
know
know, but
who
it's just
Theo
like
James is in season 2, but
he's just,
Cameron,
you know what I mean? Like
Cameron.
Cameron. So when I'm thinking
Cameron.
about Talon and stuff, I'm thinking about like Theo's energy, he's just like, and even in
Ooh.
Divergent, he's just like,
Yeah.
he's good. Because I really wanted, like, I love, like, my husband's brown and tanned. I've got my dark brooding guy in real life.
Love
And so
that.
naturally, I would write to that. But I was like, I don't want to recreate Zayden. I don't want to go near that. Like, he just needs to stand by himself,
Right.
and he
Yeah.
deserves it. So I was like, I need somebody else. And I was like, okay, like, Theo, that's in my mind. I was thinking Theo mixed with Heath Ledger.
Oh
So that's where I
my
was kind of
gosh,
like,
say
yeah.
less.
The world
say
needs
less.
that.
Yeah, that's what I
Oh
was trying
my
to think.
goodness.
So,
That is amazing.
yeah. What else? Other
Um,
characters.
what is your favorite White Lotus season,
Oh.
first of all?
I think it's funny, I watched it in the wrong order. So I watched season 2 first, then I watched season 3, and then I went back and watched oh no, then I watched season 1
interesting.
and like kind of went back. So I was really interested to see. I was like, oh, the characters come across. I
You
think
watched
season 2.
Tanya's storyline backwards.
Oh my God, she's awesome. How great is Jennifer Coolidge? Like, just
Yeah.
the best.
Unreal.
Yeah, I think season 2. I just loved it. I think there was just something like
Yeah.
eerily
Yeah.
dark about it that was just really great. I
I
loved
think
the
I
latest
loved,
season. The
yeah,
characters in the
season
latest
three,
season were
the,
just great. The brothers,
yeah.
what a weird, like, that was so good and done so well.
And the Southern family, like, I just loved that whole over the top, like,
Piper.
stereotype. Yeah.
Yeah.
Piper, no.
Oh, so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I just had to
Well,
ask because I need to geek out on that.
And
always.
I used to work for the Four Seasons. We used to live in the Maldives and we
Oh my
worked for the Four Seasons.
gosh.
Yeah. And so when I was in Thailand, I went and visited, I went on to the Koh Samui resort and just like had dinner there one time.
Oh,
And they showed me around. So then when I'm watching, the Koh Samui resort is the one that's really steep because they filmed in loads of different
Yeah.
locations. So you
yeah.
think they're at one resort, but they're not. They're at an Anantara resort as well.
Oh,
But the
okay.
Koh Samui Four Seasons is the one that's really steep. So when they're zoomed out and you see all the terraced
Yeah.
apartments, and it's just like, so it was really fun watching it because I was like, oh my God, like it
That
feels
is
like
so cool.
it feels like that when you're there.
Wow, we're gonna have to take a trip at some
Yeah.
point. Go on
Absolutely.
site. So Becky would love to kind of end with a final question on when you're not doing your writing, marketing, being just an all-around superwoman, what is something that you're reading that you're obsessed with right now?
So it's funny, yeah, I used to read, it used to be really boring. I'd be reading a lot of nonfiction, a lot of sort of like
Mm,
um books. I love, like, is it Robert Greene? He writes a lot about, and I'm taking a lot of inspiration from him with like power dynamics, and like he writes a lot of like I think he wrote The Art of Seduction, The 47 Laws of Power. Like
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
they're really
mm,
good books for like laying down tropes, and like he gives historical, like, different wars and how people manipulated each other to get what they want. So
okay.
that's really fun for like layering
Yeah.
into character development. At the moment, I'm reading. I just started. I
Oh,
feel so happy. Like, it's funny. I feel because my friend's like, I'm so jealous that you've just started because now she's like,
me too.
you get to read it all really slow. But at the same time, I've just started, and now I'm like, I don't understand why is Tamlin not mentioned anywhere in any like fan art or like later.
Yeah,
It's all about
yeah.
Reese, and I'm probably like I'm just really close to the end. She's just gone under the mountain, and so I'm
Uh-oh.
like, yeah. So I'm kind of
Oh
Yeah.
my
like,
Oh,
goodness.
I know
Well,
something. It's funny because again, like being online and being fully immersed into Bookstagram now, it's really hard
yep.
to avoid teasers for
Oh,
things
it's
to
oh
come.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just like,
It's
I know
impossible.
something's up, but I don't know
Uh,
what.
yeah, that's
Um,
where I'm
Wow.
like, I'm jealous of people who are starting ACOTAR for the first time, but then I'm also like, that must be so tough when you just kind of know a ton of the plot twists from just like being online, you know?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I feel like I was just immediately going to look up fan art right after I read it,
yeah,
and I was like,
yeah, yeah,
I'm seeing a lot of men with wings,
yeah, yeah,
and I don't
yeah, yeah.
understand what that means
No.
yet.
And it's interesting actually, this fan art like doesn't really do it for me too much. So sometimes I'm like,
Yeah,
actually I won't look up the fan art for that. Um,
Yeah.
yep,
yeah.
that's fair. That's
Wow, it
very
is
fair.
hard to find a reader in the wild that hasn't yet read the whole series, so this
In
is
the
very
wild.
exciting.
I know.
You're gonna really love it. But have you read Throne of Glass?
No, there's so many. There's honestly like
Oh,
I'm so, and actually it's funny because there's a part of me. This is quite good because this is like very different tropes, very different
Yeah,
vibe from my book. So I feel happy to read this because I'm like, okay,
yeah.
like I love how this is actually so different. But actually some of the other books I started them, and what I'm happy about is that like I I'm so new to this romantasy world of book reading that
Hmm.
like I just actually want to finish my books and not be influenced or deterred by other
Right.
books. And also then if somebody says to me like, "Oh my God, this is so like that," I can be like, "Well, I didn't read it." So
Yeah.
yeah.
I
if
was
it
just
happened
gonna
like that, it
say.
just happened like that. And so I really want to keep
Yeah.
that naivety. And
Yep.
I'm drawing from those big stories, those kind of bigger, older stories that have stood the
Yes.
test of time, and they're
Yep.
coming in, which naturally will be in other books because obviously there's only a certain amount of like lovers to enemy, like enemies to lovers,
Yeah.
hero's
Right.
journey. So yes,
You're
I'm
gonna
gonna stick
love
with
Throne of
these.
Glass though. Like those are good. You won't get distracted
Yeah.
from your writing. You're not gonna take
Yes.
any of them into your book. But Throne
Okay,
of
cool.
Glass, you might accidentally take into your book, but I think you'll love it because it gives a little bit more like high fantasy.
It is
Oh,
so
nice.
good. It
Yeah.
is unbelievable. But I also feel like you just dipping your toes into being a romantasy reader kind of uniquely positions you to
I hope so.
make your book not kind of the standard romantasy formula. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
feel like you probably are going to add so many things that are genuinely unique
Yeah.
to the genre that
I hope. I hope. I have
to your
no
point,
idea.
this naivety
It,
might just like serve you a lot better with your writing journey.
it could, or it could be the opposite, and I like go back and read all these books after, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like exactly. I think so. My background's like the high fantasy stuff, and then like I'm a big Studio Ghibli fan. Like that's my real
Oh
passion.
yes, we both
Yeah.
love
So
that.
yeah. So a lot of things where suddenly like one of the twists the other day really came from like thinking about some stuff in like Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So
I
Wow.
love that.
let's
Wow, I
see.
cannot wait to read with all these name drops. We've had Buffy
Oh,
the Vampire
same.
Slayer, Lord of the Rings, Fourth Wing. Now we have Studio
Theo James,
Ghibli,
Heath
Theo
Ledger,
James.
come
Heath
on.
Ledger, Theo.
You've really teased this book up. So, do you have any kind of like
Yay!
final conclusion you want to share with the audience about like release dates, what to look forward to,
Yeah,
where to follow?
yeah. So yeah, if they just go to the Instagram account, everything's there. They can read a tester of the first two chapters. They can message Lyra the word truth, and she'll send them some extra secrets and lead them into the vault where they can get all of the access to the current chapters. Up to chapter 5, I'll be dropping chapter 6 and 7 this weekend. That's the
Woo.
plan. Yeah, it's like you'll buy chapter by chapter 5, I think you probably got a really good idea of like the setup of what I'm
Yeah.
promising, but you won't really know like what's to come. There'll still be a lot. I think, and in terms of like slow burn, we're gonna get some. We'll get some little action in act. So there's 3 acts. You'll get a little bit of action in Act 1. The
Mm.
beginning of Act 2 is where we're gonna like really kick things off, but
Uh-oh.
then we're gonna rip them apart, and
Oh
then
no.
yeah, and then Act 3 we'll see some good stuff. So yeah, so you can follow along. The chapters are dropped. You can either read it online, but there's also like the formatted PDF version. So some people are downloading it and then just sending it over to their Kindle so they can actually just sit
Oh,
and read.
nice.
So you can have like you can
Fantastic.
download the current manuscript, which will always be up to the latest chapter, and just have it in one big go. Or if you've read that and you come back the next week and you just want to only download that chapter that's been dropped, you can just do that.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we are so excited.
Oh,
Everything about this has just been fantastic, and
thank,
you're giving
thank you
us
for talking to
another
me about it.
reason to look forward to 2026. Well, we're
Yay!
about to have our new
Yeah.
favorite book.
Yes.
So
Oh my
thank you
God.
so much for joining us, for chatting with us. This was
Thanks,
such a
guys.
pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and to everyone else, we'll see you same time, same place next Sunday. Bring your book boyfriends, bring your blankets, and we'll see you then.
See ya.